in the background. First thing one needs to do, I shall be back in about 10 minutes. So before I do that, I'll show this chapter. The brain implant victim speaks out, and this is reference to an issue of a website, winter 1999, more like winter now actually, with the cold air coming in. Right, let me go into screen sharing. So good day, powers that be, whoever you are watching, and this is a subject. It's not just about Freemasonry, but if you need to dig up the roots of the occult and the Illuminati, the Luminist, and what their philosophies are. Let me just get rid of one. Right, I think I'm screen sharing. Okay, let's just check to see if it's coming across. So, if you don't believe there is such technology that's around before Operation Paperclip, you might want to research that in the warriors and the history back in the 15th century, really. And why do they need the biological use of the human brain? It's not just for future, where they play the assumption that's all for the better mankind. It's total behaviour, total electrical patterned. I've got alternative platforms, I won't go into that now, but there's the terminology called the biomedical mind control, the brain computer interaction, and basically this has been around since the invention of the television programming, 1956 document patterns. I wonder if I can get this document up. www.usa-anticommunism.com/US pattern _mind control -PHP. The patterns are 1956, issued 1961. This is all to do with every single modern device to date. Well, up to the date of this article. And the method of monitoring altering the brainwaves, which is ELF, electrical brainwaves. The patterns, I mean, people say, oh, I can hear voices in my head. B2K, it's not, it's technology. Then you could say the human behaviour has been controlled. It's been like this for many years before I was born. The microwave, well, if you don't realise how the waveforms are used to broadcast the EEG and F are the advanced technology, extremely more advanced now. The brainwave activity, the neuromonitoring, remote viewing as well. There's patterns of communication, the apparatus of broadcasting sound using as a carrier. There's, I mean, goodness me, I just couldn't believe half of this really when I stumbled across it. Now, the gentleman on this, he's got family history, goes back and a long history in Germany, and his father and grandfather are occultists, well, former occultists, because they're no longer alive. Let me just check this screen sharing. I'm streaming on 2 channels, so bear with me, there is a wind coming in, I thought so. Cold air. Oh, by the way, there's also perpetrators that like to monitor this and play back, but let me just hint out Right, we'll try again. Hello. Right, we'll try again. And how are you? Long time no hear. It's a miracle that anyone's in, because this is the heaviest monitor channel going. Well, just one of many that target individuals. I'm monitoring this. I won't be talking at the moment till I've had my dinner. So how are you doing? Nice for you to pop in. We'll go back to this website. Let me just see if I'm sharing it. Hello. And how are you? Okay, it's a miracle that anyone's in. Try again. Because the heaviest monitor. Right, we are sharing it. Right. Okay, so target individuals, microwave energy weapons, organised stalking individuals, and a lot more. This is NSS Devil Worshippers target posts. There is a Telegram app, a group for target individuals. Me, we, sounds strange. It's a social media site. There is a group in there. It's very helpful if you post in that one for England, especially people in England. Right, so let's have a look at the first mind control pattern. Here you go. It's a bit lopsided. Somebody laying down. It's a bit like if you're having a head scan. It's a bit like one of those sort of like beds with a cover over it. But yeah, the diagram has got the apparatus and the figure in the drawing. It's more sophisticated like that now, of course. And the inventor. You look back in history, these inventors are now more advanced in biotech and much more than that since that date. Where on earth did they originally get all these ideas from? That's what you want to research. So, let's go over to the history, physical control of the mind toward psychological capacity. The book Amazon. Wow, this 1870s. Hold on, does that pop up? So the book focuses on the use of electronic implants, and this is 1971. Okay, the implants have controlled one's thoughts and reactions. This is a thoughtful, up-to-date account of remarkable experiments with electronic stimulation of the brain carried out in. Oh, this is the history, what they used to experiment on in those days, carried out in cats, monkeys, chimpanzees, and a few human patients. Yeah. This is even. I was a kid at that time. Goodness knows what age. I can't remember now what it was then. But did anybody know that? And it claims in the book synopsis, as well as that somewhat romantic experimental animal, the fighting bull. Do you remember seeing any videos on that? On the scientific example? You can control the mind of the bull. Okay, so get out of promoting that. So let's go down on the article. We are advancing rapidly in the pattern recognition of electronic and goes into behaviour method for two-way radio communication between brain and computers. Now here we are with the AI and advancement of AI. I mean, in England today, Manchester Conservative Party announcement of pushing AI computerisation jobs. Everybody can work with the globalist elite slaves. If you want to be totally controlled to transhumanism by 2050, yeah, go ahead. This has been ongoing longer than most people can imagine. And in fact, one of the first applications of computer technology 40 years ago to link the human biological system with a computer. Now let's see the date of this article, shall we? 1999. From 40 years from that date ago. Now we're in 2021. Think what they're doing now. It's a picture of an implant in the brain and this individual that blew the whistle on the state tranny. And of Sweden, that was, for the place Nazi Germany, eh? And where we are now? So I'm just skipping through some bits because it will take forever to read through. So basically, it might even bore a lot of people to switch off. But if you don't realise that you might even be implanted and you might not even know about it, and you might think, oh, I'm just having a shite day and I'm just getting perps and just getting idiots that set me up all the bloody time, or I'm having a bad luck of life, or your relationship might be failed, or all sort of negative stuff. No. Oh no. It's by design. They want to disassociate the mind, your life, and the occultists in Freemasonry in history is all teaches their kids from a baby to disassociate their mind. This is from the 15th century plus. I won't bore you all the history of the details I've researched, and many others have. So, it's been almost 30 odd years since the first transmitter was implanted in the head of a soldier hospital. The issue in the fact that the much bigger and even more shocking, such surgeons have been placing these transmitters in the heads of patients under anaesthetic on the operating table. This is what happened to me, the author of this article, and the year of this at the end of 1960s. If they can do that to somebody's brain in the 1960s, think what they can do in the year 2021. The author goes on to claim, when I underwent surgery at the soldier hospital prior to that time, I'd been a completely normal member of society. Doesn't that sound familiar? I had never committed a crime or any contact with any psychiatry, and I was employed. Isn't that a pattern of target individuals? Labelled with the mental health card. They don't have a job, they lose a home, their house, they get homeless. Yeah. In fact, there was nothing about my life which could warrant the taking of such measures to observe me. The only reasonable conclusions is that certain surgeons at the hospital were and maybe continue to implant transmitters during normal operations on a regular basis. Well, I've had a bloody few operations in my time as an adult and as a woman's point of view. So when could they have done that to me? Yeah. Go for all your medical notes, you may not never find out. There is no reason whatsoever to believe that I was an exception. 32 years ago, in 1965, a researcher for Defence Research Institution, Department of Information Technology, named P.M. Person, published an article on biological telemetry, in which he wrote, the telemety, i.e. the radio transmission of data, is applied primarily where it's difficult or impossible to supply the parameters by any other method. The word telemetry is diverted from the Greek tele, meaning to measure. Wonder why they want to measure the human brain? What do you think's in it for all these powers that be? In Swedish, the telemetry, if I pronounce that word correctly, hence the spelling, would therefore be called, and I have to spell this, the long distance measuring. A significant part of the biologic therapy, excuse me, is conducted I'm showing something that is public knowledge, this, by the way. This is nothing unlawful what I'm showing. It just they're messing about with me today. So in Sweden this happened, and the author of this article, the transmissions into the brain, the development of it come a long way in medical research. Why do you think they're testing the technology now? Does anybody get the ring in the ears? You could say you've had it for a long time? What had actually been well developed in medical research was a course of use of patients in which heads the surgeons would become transmitters, which I think they're doing now. You ever seen the majority report? Now, if this gets hacked, I should be back. I'll finish my mail and I'll get the stream for any comments. Have a think about that one. trigger a leaf, your demonic activity. This is ultra what they're doing, controlling computers and doing all sorts of demonic things. So if you want to research a manipulation of an author without consent and controlling the behaviours, you want to research, just do there are some really good documents out there. I'll stop screen sharing for a moment. Checking the weather. Bloody freezing. Oh my goodness me, it's so weary now, Monday. I just cannot describe what I saw today. Anyway. Where are we now? Let's have a look. Trigger a leaf, your demonic activity. This is ultra what they're doing, controlling computers and doing all sorts of demonic things. So if you want to research a manipulation of an author without consent, oh yeah, was it so pathetic where the controlled the apps, Instagram. Let's just divert this. Excuse me. Wow, still on self. Wow, a year ago, you see. This is, so, as I'm speaking, I got hacked into. If I get hacked, this is a bloody nightmare, right? is a statute law. This bloody thing doesn't work. Wow. So I'm looking at statute law, right? So how the hell is anybody meant to understand this? Tribunals, Courts and Enforcement Statute Act 2017, right? The clause striking out. Wow. The history of MK Ultra. Number three, outrages of social media platforms. It's not that unusual. Down, detector. What's up? Look, this is Spy Facebook. Spy WhatsApp. Come on. If I'd known that this Facebook Inc. owned all these blinking. Oh, look, it's about download. That's what it's about. They want you to upload their latest version of things. Don't even do that. Your phone date's full. They want you to restart. Oh my lord, that's what it's about. They want to hack into your phone. Update WhatsApp. That's what it's about. You know, to get the latest version from Google Play Store. God. Oh my god. I ain't using that again. Did your boss save some data? Well, that's what they're doing then. You don't know how they collect your data. The Big Brother powers that be. It's all data mining, data connection. My gosh. Sad, really. That's what it's about. Crashing so they can update the servers that host their applications and software. So those that want to use their services will care. Oh my god. Excuse me. About oh dear. About oh god, I've got a coffee now. It's so funny the way they've done it. Oh, just so it was clear it was coming. The takeover of everything. Oh my gosh. You won't need your computers or internet soon, you know, like phones and stuff. Because it's Agenda 2050. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, this is just so hilarious. Let me just mute this, it's put me off. Right, hold on. Hold on, which one did I do? Right, so basically in England, I don't know where else in the world, but if you use a WhatsApp, which is like a video messaging service, and you use Facebook, which I do not, the Facebook Inc. Corporation, if you look in history, it's just a front man, he's not actually the original designer and the original think tank behind the software of the format originally of Facebook, so you can research that, anyone can find that out. And then you also got Instagram, a messenger app. Did you know they're all owned by the same company? So all your personal photos and data, I do not do that ever. I used to before I realised how much data they're collecting. And before I knew 2018, for example, when I started researching, and how much of this data in the world is all for the futuristic subject of transhumanism, mixing the human body biologically to machine technology, using the AI technology. Oh my gosh. And when I researched back in history to the 15th century of who the heck would even come up with such kind of technology, and look at the primitive years. And I stumbled across a document and I just stopped reading it because it was crossing the line on Christianity, on the Luciferian agenda, fallen angels, Book of Enoch, on that subject. I mean, there's many rabbit holes, but one needs to focus on here and now. And one needs to have a look at the past to see where we are now in the world and what the events are happening right now. I mean, it's been leading up to this anyway for a long time. And then, of course, the military, it's always military, that's a fourth runner. And now it's all gone into private hands, old hack technology. So AI is old hack, really. What they portray to the public generally is more advanced technology. I mean, it sounds like a sci-fi movie, a lot of this information, when you find it and read these documents going back to the 90s, and now we're 2021. So I can't even mention certain subjects on this format here because powers that be would just love that. So when I do appear in my software, I can't even tell you how many corporations are hacking into my main network on this laptop. It's off the charts. I cannot even tell you how badly hacked this computer, any phone or computer, anything, it is constantly. If you get a new phone, it's hacked within weeks. Doesn't matter if you've got really strong firewall protections, they still get a backdoor into it. And that's how desperate they are to monitor target individuals for brain interface research purposes for their technology. You will not need a phone soon because with the Internet of Things, AI, there will be a chip in your brain. Well, they even did that already, but it will be such a design. The Neuralink is nothing new. Elon Musk, that's nothing new. That's old history. It's just in the public domain claiming it is new. The only reason he's fronting all this, he's not the original funders for all these corporations. And when you look at this family history line, genealogy, you'll find the father side and the mother side and the mother's grandfather side and genealogy, and you'll find the dark occultists are behind a lot of this as well. So, when I found out the religion I was raised into, the occult, it is a cult, not a Christian church, so to speak, but they portray it as that worldwide, extremely very wealthy corporation. And when I was raised in it with my late mum, didn't know, so I got out of it when I could. Now I got put into this program, because I left at 17, 18 years of age and got on with my own life and made something of myself and then raised my kids myself. No, you see, when you leave the occult, they don't want you to get out. They want you to be controlled, and I was not going to be controlled, thank you, in that regard. I wasn't going to go down like my sisters. Well, my other brother, natural one, unfortunately, they must have done really horrible things and got him to participate in things and messed up his mind. He's a smart businessman, but he's sworn to secrecy on the technology in the military in England all those years ago, still to date. But he hinted to my own adult son certain things which I will never repeat. But I'm fully aware that everyone, doesn't matter what walk of life you are on or where you come from, you have a brain implant. You have technology control. You think your thoughts are your own. Oh my gosh, it sounds like a sci-fi movie talking like this. So, screenshot this article. Yeah, you see, they have to monitor the once slave race, the fallen angels, and Luke, I can't even pronounce the word. It's not even the mixing of the human DNA, you know, with another sort of like from centuries ago. I'm talking about a long time ago. And when you just read the book of Enoch or just research the subject and look how the human DNA was mixed, why? And look at the subject of shapeshifting, reptilians, subject maybe. And then you might want to connect the dots of the advanced technology, because not one single individual or a group of people could go to an education establishment, even the top of the world, establishments, to have this technology back in the 60s, 40s, 50s, 60s with a brain. Oh yes, there's movies and horror movies, guys, really black and white movies you can see. that will show you that we're experimenting animals and things with the brain. But the type of technology where we are now, I mean, to jump on that period of time to where we are now with the technology is like, yeah, okay. There's a divine intervention, not of the kind you would have thought, you know. And by 2050, the Avatar, all these movies, the Avatar, been getting out. Yeah. I'll just keep the stream in the background while I've got to go and do something. Until they happen. Playing games again, are you? Playing games. Excuse me. If you go on to his website, correction, YouTube channel, and see the list and display list what this guy's got in America, an MTI strategy guide and solutions. You might want to educate yourself. Educate-yourselforg. Do the research if you want to know more. Yeah. Right. So, going into that pattern. So we got these patterns. Let's jump to the 70s. The hearing. You get tinnitus. They can mess about with your nervous system. The microwave hearing. Shall we go look at that document? Interesting. Why would one people give it energy? My gosh. You can see the hacking my computer. There's very good documentaries that one can research if one cares to know more. I was trying to get this pattern up. 1968. This is to alterate the human body's nervous system using frequency control as well. The frequencies starts today with me what they're doing. United States Patent Office, 16th July 1968. Device, and it gives you the abstract and you can read it up, so I won't go into it all myself. So the brainwaves, let's have a look at that pattern. 7 pages documentation. The abstract. Signals interfere, and that's what they do. Now the waveform, ELF, is much stronger. Mixed with the 5G, and we'll get rid of it. Hold on, what's in this one? Hold on. Very funny. Right, messing about my computer to put stuff. What do you think? Learn that better. It's better with that. Odyssey is a good channel. Well, you can research independent information. Let's see what anything about mind control. People putting up. So yeah, so I was showing you the gameplay of my program, and Kathy O'Brien, the demonic mind control. This is it, the demonic mind control. and it's conspiracy and disclosure videos. You can go and watch it with the symbol. But it's not considered, it's a fact. On Odyssey, the Phoenix Enigma, the Masons occult, the public manipulation, who's under the certain other subjects. Proof this is the final generation, this earth, we the people. The empire of 3 cities, this is very important to know. The monetary system, the history of the occultists. This individual's got some really good information. Here we go. You've got DARPA, supercomputers and mind control. That's more modern now. I'm talking about the history of, the ultimate control. So the supercomputers is already here. Monarch and mind control. Project Monarch and further check this. So anyway, it's just a short one. I'll leave this on mute for the moment. Stop sharing because I need to go and do something before time gets too late for me. Intriguing when you look at Project Mind Control. Let me just, it's like the butterfly symbol, and it's not just actors, movie stars, that kind of thing. And you know, they talk about the Manchu mandate, but it's much more than that. So you've got an ordinary individual working behind a shop, but yet trained as an MK Ultra Monarch program to be trained whatever, because the brain is split into two. The MK Ultra, the dissociative disorder, that goes back to the 15th century apparently. Yeah, that's what he was doing, masonry, Druids, etc. And this is what I started innovating and finding with the Total Mind Control Slave. The 12 chapters below the book and the files found on archives of this individual. And this individual down here and his wife was arrested at the time. We're looking for a date. FBI in the spring of 2021, where their research material was confiscated. Makes you wonder why. What's the science of victim selection and preparation? The science of traumatizing and torturing the victim. The science of drug use, the science of hypnosis. The science of lying and deceit, that's the biggest one they do. The use of electronics, electricity, the science of structuring. Most has gone lost. Most has gone lost. The science of body manipulation and programming. The science of mind manipulation by psychological programming and methods. The use of spiritual things to control an individual. The science of internal controls and science of external controls. So we turn to revelations from a former ex-Illuminati. And then you had the 13 bloodline families, as I said. That takes you back to the 15th century and the genealogy to date where we are. Why do you think we want to follow your DNA and track you? Right, this selection, shall we? Have a look at the traumatizing. Bear with me, something not worth reading. The basis of the mnemonic mind control program is that different personalities, parts, control, alters can be created to do what? Who do not know each other, but who can take the body at different times. The anesthesia walls that are built by traumas, then a protective sheet of secrecy that protects the abusers from being found out, prevents the front personalities who hold the body much of the time to know how their system of alters is being used. The sheet of secrecy allows cult members to live and work around their people and remain totally undetected. The front altars can be wonderful Christians, and the deeper altars can be the worst type of satanic monsters unimaginable. Dr. Jackal, Mr. Hyde, this is chapter 2 of the book. A great deal at stake maintaining the secrecy of the intelligence agency or the occult group which is controlling the slave. The success rate of such type of programming is high, but when it fails, the failures are disregarded through death. Each trauma and torture serves a purpose. A great deal of experimentation and research went into finding out what can and cannot be done, and charts were made showing most and much torture a given body weight at a given age can handle without death. Now this is why the Nazis did all those strange concentration camp experiments, which they tested how quickly people would freeze or die from various traumas. It was for mind control. The abuse is very specific and scientific in their torture. A lab technician with a clipboard walks around monitoring the E for the children when they receive the initial traumas. Heart monitors are closely watched. Still, many children die from the programming. Let's go on. The programmers learnt that when a child rolled up in a fetal position, it had given up the will to live. They learned to time how fast this would occur to get an idea how far to push the child. Parents in eastern United States were taken to Harvard University for training to teach them, and how much trauma they would give their children at home before they would die. After the children got back and their initial programming, they went to receive daily traumas to keep them disassociative. Initial split and initial programming done at China Lake, CA. The priming of initial torture for many children in the western US was done at China Lake, which officially has gone under the designations of Naval Ordnance Test Station, pronounced for short NOTS, Navy Weapons Center, NWC, Ridgecrest, the town nearby, the in Yanktonny, the area. The address of the Nixitz Hospital Code 3232 Naval Air Weapons Station. The base was set up for the test new weapons. Eventually, the Navy decided that mind control people were an important weapon to test. Most of the new weapons created at China Lake were for the most part human robots turned out in large numbers. The mnemonic mind control was carried out on large airplane hangars on a base which had been able to house thousands of tiny cages, just large enough for human babies. Disclaimer: this is the article I'm reading. And I showed you where you could find it. I will again in a moment. Now, why would they want to do that with babies? And a small batch. According to people who worked in hangars helping the program, many batches were 2,000, 3,000 babies. Many survivors remember the thousands of cages housing the children from ceiling to floor. Why do you think they're doing this? At the time, this is in the article. The cages were hot-wired, electrified on the ceiling, bottom and side, so that the children who are locked up inside can receive horrific electrical shocks to their bodies to ruin their minds and split into multiple personalities. These cages were called woodpecker grids. The victims saw a flash of light when high DC voltage was applied. Later, this flash of light is used with hypnotic induction to make the individual think they are going into another dimension when they are blasted with high voltage. In the Peter Pan programming, the programmers tell the slaves that this is riding the light. One of the popular traumas after the small child has endured the woodpecker cage grids for days is to certain sexual things I won't repeat, and is intentionally brutal so it would be traumatic as possible. Many of the technical people on the base are civilians. This is in part because of the research involved with the mind control and the Illuminati. Civilian mind control experts have come and gone from the base. The California Institute of Technology, and it quotes where it's based, is intimately connected to China Lake research by the way to the Illuminati. Also, much of the work of the facility for the intelligence agencies and not the military. Intelligence assets are often civilians, and one of these things developed in the California universities and then implemented at China Lake was color programming, which will be converted later in this book. Red and green was discovered to be the most visible colors for programming. Various colored flashing lights were used for programming at NOTS. That's like what you get in casinos on the Rubik Cube, the colours. The flashing lights, at nightclubs as well, maybe. Survivors of the programming all remember flashing lights. The use of flashing lights have been introduced into American culture by the CIA, and if an individual goes into bars and places where bands play, you will notice multicolored light flashing. The flashing lights create this association, especially in people who are programmed. It gives a diagram. Let me just check the chat. Let's see, they haven't disconnected. Okay. Now, below is a diagram. A list of major programming centers is given in index along with each site's programming specialists in this chapter of the book. An example of just one of these bases for early programming is given: the large and very secret China Lake facility, California near Death Valley. The children were brought into the China Lake, and it quotes the image below. by trains, planes and cars, and number the small airfields which fly these children. China Lake's been identified. One is no longer used for moving children, was a private airstrip, and it quotes where it is, or which was beside a larger lumber mill. The lumber mill had an agreement to secretly house the children who had their I won't repeat certain things here. Neighbours in the area were brought off and warned that if they talked they would be in trouble for breaching national security. The area had lots of mills joined by train tracks, which were used to shuttle off children around. I won't go into certain things. And the network was connected to Catholic Monastery, which lies between, and it quotes where it is, close to the rail network. And there's a map. Los Angeles, near San Francisco. Salt Lake City. The Union train station Portland has underground tunnels where children were temporarily warehoused in cages before continuing on their journey. The Jewetts were active in this part of the child procurement. Catholic adoption agencies, which are many, nuns who got, this is a book, as I said, I'm going to show you the author, it's not my opinion, who got pregnant, and nuns who got pregnant, third world parents, and parents who would sell their children were all sources of children for programming. When one thinks about how many corrupt people there are and how many towns and cities on the West Coast in America, how many children are produced by the satanic breeders, illegal aliens and other parents who'd rather have the money than children, and the reader begins to realise how peculiarly batches of 1,000 to 2,000 children with no problem for Illuminati working through intelligence agencies such as the CIA, NISA, DIA, FBI and FEMA, the finders. A joint CIA-FBI group procurement for children for the network for years. Some of the children needed for program are to be used for the sacrifices to traumatize those being programmed. The names some of the people who work at procuring children for programming sacrifice have been released, and that's in the book or the monthly newsletter of this gentleman's book. The secret FEMA airstrip Santa Rosa has planes landing and leaving at night. Some of these flights to east and then land at the secret 1800 square mile China Lake base and are believed to carry children for programming. The airship is called Santa Rosa Air Center. When I tried to get the FAA information on the airship, they played stupid if it didn't exist, yet it is in operation. Near Santa Rosa, in the Blooming Grove, southwest of Santa Rosa, is the air center, which is not used by the public. The airport was recently leased to private companies such as the CIA. The paved areas of the floor are concrete and can land heaviest planes in use. There are no buildings over buildings over the 2 stories in the entire area and no control tower. The FBI has a contingent in the federal building downtown Santa Rosa, FEMA, and has a radio station in the airport. The Army Reserve has some buildings in the area. And now, before I read it, I won't go into all this, but it goes into specific dates and articles. This is, I'll go back to original book. It is the Illuminati formula to create an undetectable total mind control slave. This is the author. I don't think the website's up still yet. These are the chapters of the books. Now there's another add material. Now originally Return to Revelations from an Ex-Illuminati. This is the actual individual. That's what it's called. And his work. H.G. Wells, The Prophet of the New World Order. Bloodline, the Black Mobility. Mexico. You see, it goes into deep subjects. And it's going about him, showing the author. Wow, there he is. I didn't realise he's the same individual. I've been watching him on the prophecy. It's probably the world's most authority on the bloodline of the Illuminati and the techniques they employ to create a mind control slave. His books on mind control and the former Illuminati programmer and are without peer in depth. His lecture on the Illuminati and mind controlled at the Granada Forum in 1998, I've watched that before, a long time ago, was the best and most let me just see. And let me just see if I can get that actual video up. Because I did watch it a long time ago. Sometimes people like to watch things rather than read. Free Your Mind Conference. See this original. Demons, aliens, underground bases, Illuminati families and threats of modern times. This was 4 years ago. Here you go, 2 years ago, an audio book.
1. The Astor Bloodline. The original founder of the Astor fortune was John Jacob Astor, 1763 to 1884. John Jacob Astor was born in Waldorf, Duchy of Baden, Germany, from a Jewish bloodline. The Jewish origins have been hidden, and quite a number of various ideas of the Astor's heritage have been put into circulation by the Astors. John Jacob Astor was a butcher in Waldorf. In 1784, he came to America after a stopover in London, England. Although the story is that he came to America penniless and that may be true, he soon joined the Masonic Lodge, and within 2 to 3 years had become Fritz Spring Media, The Watchtower and the Masons. Author's efforts. The subject of this book touches almost everyone's life. Yet, many will not immediately see any connection. Many people, if you ask them, have only vague ideas about the Jehovah's Witnesses and Masons. To them, the Jehovah's Witnesses are some overzealous people with some twisted religion, and the Masons are some group related to benevolence like the Shriners and their hospitals. Without a doubt, many people will not see any connection between their own lives, the Jehovah's Witnesses, and the Freemasons. A number of people have advocated that truth without love is too hard, love without truth is too soft. This author firmly believes this. It's time to wake people up from their slumber. The second Tower of Babel. There is a coming new world order planned by the secretive leaders of the Jehovah's Witnesses that should scare the socks off anyone, including the Jehovah's Witnesses themselves. However, if this new world order were only in the hands of Jehovah's Witnesses to initiate, we could relax, because they have only minimal political clout, few guns, and teach non-participation in war. It's when we get the bigger picture that we realize these people are talking about something serious. This author's research has led him to conclude that the one world government, one world religion that the New Age has planned for us, and the one world government and one world religion that the Freemasons such as the Grand Orient have planned, and the Watchtower Society's new order are one and the same. Before you dismiss this as sensationalism, you owe it to yourself to investigate a scheme that has enough high-caliber people of all walks of life worldwide involved in bringing it to fruition. Like the French Revolution, many people may be involved without realizing what is taking place. Some may unwittingly support this new revolution. Perhaps it may be only such help as your neighbor giving a small donation for a Y book. Your neighbor may then go back into his house and as he watches the news feel frustrated because what he sees happening in world events does not make sense to him. The Witnesses' literature will provide him a pre-packaged explanation of world events. Once he dives into this, he is theirs. However, this book gives the reader the inside story about the pre-packaged explanation. Also, we will find out there are three groups with identical plans for a new world order. The reader will also find out that these three are connected. This book is a preliminary investigation. Should the good Lord see fit, it will someday be followed with more pertinent information. The book begins with curiosity about the Jehovah's Witnesses' strangeness. It proceeds to examine the story of their founder, Charles Taze Russell. Because Russell's history is a liability to the society, they have to distance themselves from CT, while at the same time in general carrying forth his ideas. The author has confirmed Russell's Masonic membership. Now the reader knows the bottom line. Even the chapter 2 and 3 are written in a very speculative fashion. However, they call an array of facts and clues to the reader's attention. Facts that call for answers. This book was never intended to answer all the reader's questions. This publication has always been intended as a vehicle to get people to think. Every day we act on plausibilities, so it is nothing unusual for this author to ask the reader to think, peruse these clues, and then to investigate further on his own into these things. The book covers the second Watchtower president's modus operandi in covering up the use of a demonic Watchtower healing device. It also shows how demons played a crucial role in channeling information to the Watchtower leaders. Each of these items is just a piece in the puzzle about who these men are, and what their objectives are. This book will help you understand the mindset of the first two presidents of the Watchtower Society. The men today involved in scheming for this new order do not think like many of us. Their mindset is power and control. Therefore, the Orwellian world they are bringing in is not the type of world you and I would bring in. This analysis is not just this author's opinion but is shared by others. The reader will examine what they say about their plans. The French Revolution had many actors on its stage. Likewise, to study the role each actor is to play in the coming world revolution has been complex. The Jehovah's Witnesses are playing a big role in preparing the world for this incoming world government. The governing body's Masonic memberships and ties are out there for the interested to research and examine. Because this book is based only on my own research, this author is not going to give all the details. Readers are welcome to respond with letters. The good Lord will reveal all things in his own good time. With a clear conscience, this author will state that this thought-provoking book is to help, not to harm anyone. Its goal is to promote honest investigation into the history of the Watchtower presidents and the governing body, and not to promote his own personal theories. The Jehovah's Witnesses' own printed historical accounts are totally misleading. Unless capable individuals take the time to investigate and report the real story about the Jehovah's Witnesses, then the world will be left with only their own doctored versions. There is a time and a place for everything, even preliminary reports. 3:1. So even if my knowledge is partial, it is time this subject was broached publicly. What is the timetable for the new order? We should not sit around until it is launched. Recent Watchtower and New Age literature suggests that it is planned before the turn of the century. This author encourages others to continue this investigation and to share their research and set mine on surer and more correct ground. FS. Freemasonry as a secret association has lived unchanged for centuries. As an open society, it would not last for as many years. Mackey's Masonic Jurisprudence, page 37. What is Masonry now? It is powerful. It comprises men of all ranks, wealth, office and talent, in power and out of power, and that in almost every place where power is of any importance. They are distributed, too, with the means of knowing each other, and the means of keeping secret and the means of cooperating, in the desk, in the legislative hall, on the bench, in every gathering of business, among enemies and friends, in one place as well as in another. So powerful indeed is it at this time, that it fears nothing from violence, either public or private, for it has every means to learn it in season, to counteract, defeat and punish speech by Masonic orator Brainerd at New London, Connecticut. I wish to draw your notice the fact that the Almighty God himself is the founder of a secret society. Moreover, while there are certain correspondences between the human secret orders and the one of divine origin, we shall find, as we should expect, that the latter is in every way superior to all others. Secrecy is to the advantage. All Masons are familiar with the secrets pertaining to the first degree, yet not all Masons are familiar with the secrets, etc. pertaining to the 32nd degree. So in God's secret order there are first principles of the doctrines of Christ which must be known to all who belong to the order, and are also deep things of God. Sermon by Pastor Russell, founder of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Fritz Spring Media, The Watchtower and the Masons. Chapter 1, Strange Vibes. I remember the first time I noticed a volume by the founder of what became the Jehovah's Witnesses. It was entitled, Studies in the Scriptures, on its reddish-brown cover, and had a strange winged sun disk with snakes. On my copy the left snake had a tiny gold tongue protruding from its mouth. This strange new symbol puzzled me. I wondered over its symbolic meaning, but Pastor Russell's book provided not a clue as to the cover's meaning. Obviously, the meaning was for those in the know, and not the casual reader. Pictures. The 7 volumes of Charles Taze Russell's Studies in the Scriptures had this strange winged sun disk. The 7th volume was billed as Russell's, but was written by George H. Fisher and C.J. Woodworth. End of pictures. Russell spoke of the golden age to come. Each volume's title page capitalized in bold underlined letters the golden age of prophecy. Not knowing who Russell was, I wasn't aroused by this non-biblical term, golden age. Nor did I realize the implications of Russell's strange beliefs in the Great Pyramid. However, I do distinctly remember the first impression as a Christian. This is weird. How does one investigate something strange like this? It does have its difficulties. First, it's like being a policeman who comes upon a suspicious car accident. If he rules it an accident, rather than a homicide, he will limit his approach in gathering clues. On the other hand, if he assumes the worst and views it as a homicide, he will collect all the evidence he can. This book is an attempt to gather evidence. Yes, the fact that the policeman gathers facts means he's suspicious. It doesn't mean anyone is guilty. Certainly today, Jehovah's Witnesses do not join Masonic lodges and orders. After years of in-depth study of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and learning what I could about the Freemasons by talking to Freemasons, talking to ex-Freemasons, reading, going to public lodge events, etc., I offer the following conclusions and cautions when beginning research. Researching a book on Jehovah's Witnesses and Freemasons, both secretive organizations, is a challenge. Both publish propaganda based on what they want you to think, rather than history. Maury, in the origin and teachings of Freemasonry, goes so far as to quote respected Masons who themselves warn other Masons that most of their own history books are in large part fiction and unreliable. Not all Masonic writers identify themselves as being Masons. The Jehovah's Witnesses literature is biased and loaded with fictitious information. Several writers have taken them to task for scholastic dishonesty. That is, they have a penchant for misquoting others. On the other hand, Protestant and Catholic material is biased too, for they may be latching onto superficially learned knowledge in an effort to counteract others. Expect the Masons' bias to be to show their legitimacy and antiquity. Less of this appears in recent times. Expect big differences between European Masonry and American Masonry. Expect to the incorrect view that all Freemasons have a common purpose, common beliefs, and common methods. The Freemason next door may sincerely believe the Freemasons are innocuous, for he regards his own personal experience without bothering to get an historical perspective. Some Masonic groups are not so benign. Any secret organization such as the Masons is a ready-made organization for mischief should scheming men control it. But the non-Mason should be scheming men for mischief should scheming men control it. Masons mostly in terms
You're hacking me, are you?
fraternity. Still, expect them to confuse or be deceived to protect their secrets. Degree in solemnly and sincerely promise and swear that I will always hail, ever conceal and never reveal any of the arts, parts or points of the secret arts and mysteries of ancient Freemasonry which I received, am about to receive, or may hereafter be instructed in. Shaw, Jim, X33 Degree, and Tom McKenney. The Deadly Deception. Lafayette, La, Huntington House, Incorporated 1988. For a modern exception to this, see Chapter 12. End of footnote. Expect the Jehovah's Witnesses to portray a selfless, pristine, perfect organization, to hide or gloss over doctrinal controversies, to change history to match present truth, and to cover over anything embarrassing. Each group has schemes of truth in their positions and biases. Yet truth with embellishments is no longer truth, but a distortion. In this investigation, you are the jury even as this goes to press the facts and evidence are not all in. In a court of law, every witness has his chance on the stand. There are some sources that are quoted that the author would not endorse without some reservations. As a detective, the goal has been to filter out spurious information, yet consider every relevant fact. Fritz Media, The Watchtower and the Masons. Chapter 2, Ideas don't come out of a vacuum. When something new appears, it is good for us to remember there is nothing new under the sun. My experience as a world traveler and a history buff is that I marvel at how much continuity a modern people has with their ancestors. For instance, One day in a restaurant while I was waiting for a meal, I was studying some ancient Egyptian cursive handwriting from the 19th dynasty. That means this handwriting was about 3,300 years old, and this hieratic, the ancient Egyptian cursive, is a different system than the modern Arabic script used today in Egypt. An Arab approached me and started a conversation, because he thought I was reading Arabic. It caused me to reflect. The Egyptians had been conquered by the Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, and Romans, and had gone through using various scripts, yet they choose to use the Arabic script, which resembles the hieratic they had used in the centuries before Christ. The word choosers used on the premise people are responsible for their behavior. People also tend to build, to adapt on past ideas. People tend to borrow rather than create new. When we see something new arrive in history, such as the alphabet, a person then looks for clues as to when that alphabet was introduced. It is valid then to question where new ideas spring from. They rarely come from a vacuum. When Charles T. Russell created a new religious body, his ideas did not come out of a vacuum. Various scholars have tracked down Russell's ideas to all kinds of heresies. Where did all these strange beliefs come from? My Jehovah's Witnesses piqued my curiosity. For instance, why call one's meeting place a hall? Why not kingdom meeting, or kingdom assembly, or kingdom study, or church, or chapel, or tabernacle, or temple, or something else? Why hall? Why all the secrecy? Why are the writers and the leaders of the Watchtower Society clouded in secrecy? Why have no membership records been kept? The answer given, that it was a security measure in case of persecution, didn't satisfy me. Other groups equally persecuted made other choices that are not secretive. They would say, we trust God and are willing to suffer for him, so why be secretive? What have we to hide? The choice to be secretive is just that, choice. And that decision and other attitudes are instilled from the top down. That is, from the Watchtower president and now the governing body down the pyramid to the masses of Jehovah's Witnesses. The answer to where Jehovah's Witnesses receive their strange beliefs, strange doctrines, and attitudes comes primarily from two men. Because primarily only two men, Charles Taze Russell and Joseph F. Rutherford, made all the decisions of the Watchtower Society for the beginning 60 years. Footnote, France, Ray. Crisis of Conscience. Atlanta, Commentary Press, 1983, page 60. Ray France, a former member of the governing body, states how each of the first two WTB and TS presidents acted according to his own prerogatives in exercising his presidential authority, with no hint of a governing body. End of footnote. It is important to understand their overwhelming contribution. Charles T. Russell's father was Joseph Fell. Russell. Joseph Fell was a Presbyterian and married one. Joseph Fell left Ireland and immigrated directly to Allegheny, PA in 1846. Footnote, Western Pennsylvania Genealogical Society, compilers. A list of immigrants who applied for naturalization papers in the district courts of Allegheny County, PA. End of footnote. He left during the potato famine. It was a time when every village in Scotland and Britain had a Masonic lodge. Footnote, Carhill, Reverend D. Freemasonry and the Anti-Christian Movement. Dublin, Ireland. End of footnote. Also during the years just prior to Joseph Fell immigrating to the U.S., Joseph Fell experienced along with his Presbyterian churches the atonement heresies that broke out in 1841 and lasted for several years. The heresies concern the extent of Christ's atonement, along with some leaders adopting the Arian view of Christ. Several synods were cut off and some offenders disfellowshipped. Footnote, the Illustrated Book of All Religions, 1860, Chicago, Illinois. End of footnote. The author hasn't confirmed which side of the disputes Joseph was on, but there are indications. Charles T. Russell's mother was Anne Eliza Burney Russell. Her family was from the northern counties of Ireland, where she was born in Ulster. Footnote: Burney family and Presbyterian Church records. End of footnote. She had Charles' older brother in 1850, Charles in 52, and then his sister Margaret M.8. Footnote: Margaret joined her brother in 1874 to do the Lord's service. She maintained wholehearted support for him during her lifetime, and viewed him as the greatest man alive, a giant, unmatched. She had two girls, Alice and May F. End of footnote. Pictures: Charles T. Russell at 4 years of age. End of pictures. When S.H.E. died at the age of 37, Charles was only 9. Charles' father was a purposeful and motivated person. He started a business soon after arriving in America. At age 11, his son Charles wrote up a contract which made him and his father partners in his clothing store. This would develop into a chain of 5 men's clothing stores. Pastor Russell would buy his father's store in 1880.
I'll pause that for now. It's an important update or webinar. A warrior cause. And it's raining now, which I need to go and do something before it gets even worse. 2021. Yeah, okay. Better go now. I'll do it anyway. Getting 2 pounds. Because of the watch. Yeah. Still happening.